Welcome back to Break It with Brandon. Today, we're going to break down the last episode of Break It with Brandon, where you saw us splitting firewood with 3D printed wedges. So we ended up with four different wedges that we decided to test out, and you saw at the end there, the fourth one was actually a surprise. I didn't know ahead of time that Garrett was going to print one with a captured chisel inside, which was pretty cool. We'll talk more about that here in a second, but we started with some of the ones that you guys probably expected not to work in the first place. We had our PLA model to begin with. So PLA, obviously a fairly brittle material. You guys saw this one start to break up in the video, and then towards the end, you saw me really take the hatchet to it and take the thing to pieces. So this is pretty much all that's left of it that I could salvage. You can see the internal fill structure and everything there, but that was a pretty exciting one to see fail. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as well. But of course, for this application, probably not the best material choice. We kind of knew that ahead of time, but still had some fun with it anyway. Our next one was the ABS model. This one's still relatively intact, I guess. There's a pretty big piece left, but not in the best shape, of course. So ABS, pretty similar to the PLA in terms of mechanical properties for this particular application. Nope. Not the best fit, not strong enough for what we need it to do. So this one kind of ended up in pieces after a pretty short amount of time, actually. So the third one I was actually really surprised with. This was the Onyx material. As you can see over the last few videos in this series, I'm a pretty big fan of Onyx now because I've actually seen what it can do even without fiber reinforcement. So when I talked to Garrett about the Onyx version of this wedge, I was really surprised that he didn't put any fiber reinforcement in it. And when I got to actually splitting the wood, nice. This thing held up great. No fiber reinforcement on it. What you didn't see in the video were a couple of other swings I had at this part just to try to break it. There was kind of a big chunk that came out before we ended up with the fourth version of the part. But of course I had to break it. This is pretty much all that's left of the Onyx wedge. A little bit more dense on the infill structure, as we can see here, just with some basic settings. But this thing did a really nice job. And what I pointed out in the video, the wedge faces hold up very, very well. In a case like this, we did have some slight indentation on the top of the part, as you can see here, where the maul actually hit the wedge face, but not a bad fit for if you're just going to make something that's kind of a high impact case, only needs to last maybe 1 or 2 times, something like that. This is a pretty good fit. Wedge number 4, again, went with the Onyx material. This one failed a little bit differently, as you guys saw in the video. We captured a chisel inside the fourth wedge just to see how it would work. We knew ahead of time that you can pause your print using the Markforged interface. We can put in whatever we want into our 3D printed design. So the Onyx part with the metal chisel inside overall did okay, but it didn't quite do what I was expecting it to. I figured it would be actually a very strong part with some reinforcement inside. Again, we didn't go with any fiber reinforcement on this part, just the metal chisel inside. But you can see that it failed basically on a single layer. And as most of you guys can guess, with something like this where we pause the print, put something inside, this is a really good strategy if you're going to do things like captured threads or inserts or maybe some kind of reinforcement like this. But keep in mind how you're going to use that part. For a high impact scenario here, as we expect, where we pause that print, we're going to get much less layer adhesion at that location. So the part almost instantly fails right at that location where we have our worst layer adhesion. So that's kind of to be expected, but it was fun to experiment with in the first place. We got to play around with some different ideas for thread part capture in something like this. And I would say overall it was a pretty fun example. I hope you guys had as much fun as I did on the Break It with Brandon series. If you'd like to learn more about any of these 3D printing materials, make sure to contact us. If you have some ideas about what we should try to break next, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment down below, and we'll see you on the next episode. Special thanks to my buddy Garrett for designing all the parts. Nice job, buddy. You're going to see the two of us in our next video series, Bling My Boat. Be sure to check it out.